Now that the Prime Minister has taken over Suella Braverman's evil rhetoric about the boats and has now got a new target, which is the House of Lords, the Prime Minister and Braverman may actually end up destroying the House of Lords before even Labour get into power. Wouldn't that be ironic? I don't know whether this government is actually going to leave any future government with anything worth controlling. The last Labour government apparently left the purse empty. This government is going to leave it morally bankrupt. Anyway, on a lighter note, Suella Braverman, with nothing better to do, has trumpeted a little story to the Daily Telegraph. And I was on the phone a short while ago to people in Tirana. And I was having a very nice conversation. And I have many friends in Albania. Indeed, back in the day, shall I tell you a story? I will. Back in the day, when I'd been working in Greece as a goat herder, and I wanted to get back to the UK, and I didn't have very much money because goat herders really aren't paid very much. I got breakfast and a very nice aglitsa, a shepherd's crook. And I thought I'd just about gathered enough money by teaching English to get a bus. And I thought that I could probably get a bus up to Sarajevo, stand in the footsteps of Princeps and see where the First World War started, and then go from there up to Vienna, through Serbia, and then go on through Austria and so on, and get a train up to the coast and then across by ferry to the UK. And that's pretty well what I did, except I took the wrong turning on the mountain pass and I ended up in Albania, and I was then held in detention. And it was a little bit of a shock. And a very nice man came and released me, and we had a very extraordinary conversation in a mix of languages, because English was not one of the languages he knew. And the deal was, when his son was born, I would become his godfather. And I thought that was perfectly reasonable. Anyway, it was many years before that was realised, or before I realised it had been realised. Yeah, so that was my first experience in Albania, and that was during the time, I think, the final days of Enver Hoxha. And certainly everybody that I speak to in the UK about Albania goes on about Norman wisdom. Well, all my Albanian friends sneer at the idea. Nobody knows about Norman wisdom. This is a fantasy which I think Norman Wisdom's PR people put out. It's not one that was particularly known or celebrated in Tirana, the capital city. And I hasten to add, my birthday is the 12th of May, which happens to be the same birthday as Edward Lear, who also sojourned in Albania and spent some time in an extremely unpleasant little hotel in Tirana, as indeed I have done too. And then made his way to the Adriatic coast and saw the glories of Durrës, or Durazzo. So the Home Secretary has said that there was an internal survey commissioned by the UK Embassy in Tirana, which showed that half of young Albanians, half of all young Albanians want to cross the Channel to Britain this summer. The poll, based on 1,800 households in Kukës, which is in the north, in the mountains, in the area of Albania where I think there is still one permanent, what's it called? I can't remember. Is it permanent virgin or something? Or the woman who is taken as head of the household, who has the authority and the stature of a man and can go into the pubs and cafes and smoke with the men. Anyway, this is up in the mountains, and if you look at the Albanian flag, it's red with an eagle on, the land of the eagles, the land of the mountains. It's quite magical, and you can see it from Corfu, by the way. The Suliat Mountains, those are the mountains in the south. There's very little which is not mountainous, except for the plain of Tirana down to Durrës, and that's it. Everything else is up in there, up in the sky. Anyway, and I remember a very, very terrifying journey from Tirana to Elbasan, where I was being driven by a slightly mad old man who was drinking raki and turning round and offering me some. And at one point he had both hands off the wheel, and we were on such a narrow road, and on one side there were clouds, on the other side there were clouds. I thought I was any minute going to be in heaven. And so anyway, she has said that this poll, conducted by asking 1,800 households in Kukës, what is going to happen, and apparently half the young men aged between 17 and 22 want to leave Albania and go to Britain, despite the risks of the Channel. And she has therefore concluded that between 10,000 and 12,000 Albanians will cross the Channel, as indeed happened last year. There will be another surge. I think it's highly unlikely, but if that is the case, it's because we have got our people down in the airport and not where they are required, in Kukës. But clearly they did manage to get up to Kukës at some point. I thought Kukës was completely stripped of its young men. I thought there were no young men there. I thought they'd all gone to Britain anyway and were stuck in hotels around the country. So maybe half of those who are there do want to come back, do want to come to the UK. How many are there? 10? 15? This is a nonsense poll, and it's a nonsense, rabble-rousing, xenophobic thing. What you would expect from a rabble-rousing xenophobe like Suella Braverman. If anybody hasn't yet made their plans for the summer and does want to go somewhere pleasant for the summer, I highly recommend Durrës on the Albanian coast, the Dalmatian coast almost. And it's unspoiled. It's unspoiled and utterly charming, and you'll find the Albanian hosts are an absolute delight. By the way, the word for thank you in Albanian, I suppose if we got to interview Suella Braverman, we'd teach her some Albanian words, wouldn't we? That would be hilarious. Faleminderit. Faleminderit. Thank you. And thank you to all my Albanian friends, and thank you to the Crown Prince